day 44 of the government shutdown. You guys actually believe that these politicians give a fuck about you? These are people whom you believe have your best interests in mind. The fact that food and healthcare in America are even a contention point. You know, the 2026 midterms are coming up. A lot of you guys are focused on that. You have the mentality of vote Democrat no matter who. You know, the truth is a lot of our politicians are funded by ultra wealthy donors and super PACs. And for me, it's difficult to see a lot of politicians as people who are not compromised. A lot of American politicians seem to have this Israeli first agenda. I know that my own constituents need fucking help, but we gotta give billions and billions to Israel. You know, they're more important than the rest of you. Won't you think of Benjamin Netanyahu? American politics are a fucking joke. And I think American people are shameful as fuck. The fact that American politicians can starve American people and they don't lose any goddamn sleep at night over it. The fact that they're just trying to make it so your health care goes up in cost. I think it's super fucked how all politicians manage to do is find ways to make life more expensive for us. It's kind of like, wow, fresh fruits and vegetables are so expensive this year because the government said, let's kick out all the people who harvest the fruits and vegetables and then let those fruits and vegetables rot in the fucking field. And then the farmers make no money off of anything and we can go buy up their farmland. It's going to be so great for the American economy. Like, what does that say about American people where your own politicians will starve you and there will be no revolt? Instead, American people will be obedient. So many government workers, you've gone to work for 44 days now without a paycheck. That's almost 2 whole months. You know, is the bill collector gonna wait 2 months for that paycheck when they finally give you back pay? Is your hunger gonna wait 2 whole fucking months until, you know, the government decides to disperse funds out for SNAP? And I think at this point, a lot of Americans, we should be having the conversation over whether the government should be providing humane things like shelter, food, water, and medicine for all. Instead of this flawed colonial concept where you have to pay for the fucking land, you have to pay for the fucking structures, you have to pay for the food, you have to pay for the water, you have to pay to go hunting, you have to pay a subscription if you want to just relax. We will own nothing and we will be happy. That's what Americans are being told. You will never own a home, our politicians say. You know, that is an investment for the banks. You just get the privilege of paying for that home. You know, we don't get to own the food. You know, the government has motherfucking genetic patents for certain types of corn, certain types of wheat, certain types of rices. Some corporations have deals where farmers can only use Monsanto poisons. I think it's fucked that corporations can dump toxic shit into the waterways and only have to pay this small little fine one time for the environmental damage. And it's just more profitable to pay that small little fine than it is to get your company up to fucking regulations and standards so that you're not just polluting the air, polluting the fucking water, polluting the land. Kind of like how Norfolk Southern, what did they do? They had a little accident in East Palestine, Ohio, and completely fucked up the entire community. I don't even think that community is livable in anymore. You know, it may have been some years after the fact, but it's no doubt that those chemicals are going to have a lasting impact on, you know, the families of East Palestine for generations to come. And if you ever think that the Trump administration is one of the worst administrations in the entire history of America, well, you must not know American history very well. You know, I hate how Americans tend to pretend that these historical American figures were some decent human beings or that they had some redeeming value and that they weren't completely involved in the transatlantic slave trade. They weren't involved in owning slaves. They weren't involved in owning plantations. And I think that really says more about white America than it does the rest of us, because that's part of the colonial white American history, is to erase the history of the past and replace it with this twisted version. Everyone argues over whether Republicans or Democrats freed the slaves, never really understanding to themselves that, that was a different time. These people didn't have TV, these people didn't have news, these people didn't have radios. It wasn't until that printing press was invented that they're able to start pushing more propaganda to people. And here we are in 2025, and you guys are susceptible as shit to any form of propaganda. All it takes is an influencer with a blue check mark and a shit ton of followers and likes and views. You guys deem these people as experts in whatever bullshit they're trying to spin. We listen to these journalists who have no fucking integrity whatsoever. They just get paid to push a agenda. A lot of people watch Fox News. They believe it's a source of information. It's literally just a source of propaganda. It's not a legitimate form of news. It's the WWE of news. In fact, it's labeled as news entertainment because I believe they got sued some years ago because it wasn't news. It was just bullshit news. Kind of like the WWE isn't real wrestling. It's just an entertaining version of a theatrical version of, kind of like how politics aren't real politics. They don't talk about the real issues. They evade them like a motherfucker. They want to divide us and conquer us and have us arguing over this bullshit or that bullshit so that, they can ultimately do a backdoor deal and fuck us all in the end. As long as Democrats and Republicans think that they're against each other, they won't ever realize how bad they're getting fucked by their own government. Americans' pockets are getting picked clean right now by a bunch of ultra wealthy robber barons. And it ain't even a fucking issue. It's just another day for them. Day 44 to be exact for us. What does that say about American politicians who want to talk about family values as they're starving millions of families this holiday season? What does it say about American politicians who want to talk about morality when they're the ones sending aid and weapons to Israel so that they can slaughter fucking children, starve children until they're nothing but skin and bones? And when an American politician goes on TV and he's asked about these war crimes, he'll laugh, he'll smile, he'll smirk, because that kind of shit is funny to them, seeing people starved until they're nothing but skin and bones. Because ultimately this is just another form of white supremacy, Zionism. We always hear about Jewish ethno-state this, Jewish ethno-state that. And it's such an unfortunate thing that we all get to witness colonization happening in real time, but so many people are unable to relate it to the colonization of the Americas and see how it's exactly the same. This time it just is being done with tanks, missiles, machine guns, soldiers, jets. How fucked up it is that, for most of my adult life, America has been in a war, but yet we're going to talk about how we're the freest country in the nation. How much money Americans could have, for themselves and for their social services if we weren't giving hundreds of billions away to these genocidal foreign governments for their fucking wars. We're giving politicians taxpayer money so that they can deny war crimes are existing, so that they can invite a war criminal over to our country and give him a standing ovation. Multiple standing ovations for killing children and women and elderly people. Do you know how dystopian that is when a war criminal is coming to America and instead of being arrested, he gets a red carpet treatment, standing ovations from our politicians? It doesn't concern anybody that Israel as a country has so much influence on America that this is a private event, nobody from the public. And it's just politicians and CEOs rubbing elbows and finding out new ways to fuck you all over in the end.